Good evening. Depending on where you are, welcome in to Cricut's Actions in Design Space class. We have a lot of great content to go over with you today and help you learn more about design space. My name is Kesley Anderson, and I'll be your teacher today. I have Joy McDonnell and Lindsay Bello on the back end with Cricut. They are answering your questions that you drop in the Q&A. So if you have a question that you'd like to get to me and have it answered, or that you need to get to Joy or Lindsay, certainly definitely pop that into the Q&A. We are watching it and we'll be able to answer those questions live for you. If you have any technical difficulties with Zoom or sound or anything like that, please direct message Felicia and she can help you there. Now, this class is being recorded, and about 48 hours, you'll get a recording of the class. So you can stop and pause it at your convenience and at your leisure to rewatch it. I invite you to sit back, take some notes, and learn more about design space. We're doing some slides first to give us a broad overview of design space and sort of the 30,000-foot view of design space. Then we'll transition into Design Space Live, where I do invite you to work along with me, and then we'll actually make the project at the end. So sit back, grab your notebook. The first part is just an introduction to design space and the actions in design space layers panel. Without further ado, let's go ahead and get started. Okie doke. So actions in design space. No matter which machine you're using, a Cricut Joy, a Cricut Maker, or the Cricut Explore Air, you will be using design space. Design space is Cricut's own unique content software that works on multiple platforms. You can use it on a tablet device, on a phone, or a desktop laptop. Now, most people are probably going to be joining us from a desktop today, but some of you may be using a laptop. And I just right out the bat want to point out one big difference. Because you don't have as much screen space on a tablet device, down at the bottom of the screen on your tablet are all the pop-up windows you'll be seeing on my desktop version. So the design panel icons are down here on your bottom left. The layers panel, the edit, and the action icons are all down here on the middle. So as we're walking through, if you are on a tablet device, your screen will look a little bit differently than mine, but always look to the bottom of your screen to see the icons that I'm referring to. So this is my desktop version of Design Space. And you'll notice on the right-hand side here, I have this green box already drawn around our layers panel. Now, what the layers panel does is it houses, I guess houses is the best word. It houses all the layers. So as you bring in a shape, it creates a layer on your canvas. Now, a shape, a text, and an image all will have unique layers as you bring them onto your canvas. So when you introduce a shape to your canvas, you'll notice that shape layer pops up in the layers panel. Right there's my shape. Now, as you see, look above the layers panel, you'll notice a few icons up there called group, ungroup, duplicate, and delete. Duplicate is a quick, easy icon to click on if you want to duplicate your layer. So if you wanted 2 squares, you could just click on the duplicate icon. If you wanted to delete that shape, you could click delete. You'll notice that 2 shapes here are ghosted out, or they're a grayer color, called group and ungroup. So sometimes you'll see this across design space where an icon is grayed out, and even if you click on it, nothing will happen. Well, in this instance, group only works when you have multiple layers on your canvas. So as we add more layers onto our canvas, you'll notice that the group icon kind of wakes up there, and now it's active. You'll also notice as I brought in more layers onto my design panel that they stack one on top of the other. So I started off with my square layer, and then I brought in a circle and a triangle, and they came one right on top of the other. Now you'll also notice in your layers panel, this eye on the right-hand side here. When you click on that eye, what that does is it hides the layer. So the layer is still part of your canvas. It's still there. You can always bring it back to view by unclicking the eye, and that'll bring that layer back. But if you're working on a series of images or shapes or text, and you just need to hide something, or you're not ready to use that layer yet, you can just hide it. It doesn't delete it. It's there, and it'll be waiting when you're ready to use it. Now back up to here, you'll see this group icon is now awake. To be able to move your shapes on your canvas together, you want to group your layers. So when you have 2 or more layers selected, you can click on the group icon. And the group icon holds those layers together on your canvas. You can change the size, the positioning, and the color of all those layers at one time when they're held together. Group only works on the canvas, so it has nothing to do with when you send your images over to your machine to cut. It just holds it together on the canvas. Now you'll also notice on the layers panel, these words here that are next to each shape, each layer. The square has the word cut, circle has draw, and triangle has cut. Now, what that's referring to is the line type or the operation. And the operation is what you're asking your machine to do. So each one of these will tell your machine, cut this shape or draw this shape. And you can find more information about each operation in the layer in your edit panel up here. So right up here where it says operation, and you'll see a drop-down window, basic cut. And you'll also notice that there's a square box next to it. So this tells me that I'm going to communicate to my machine, I want the square to be cut. There are different options as you choose your drop-down menu. You'll notice you have more options than just draw. You can, than just cut. You can change this operation from the drop-down window. So instead of cutting the square, you wanted to draw the square, you could select that right here. Notice also in the header bar up here, you do have an Explore 3 selected. So when you have the Explore 3 selected, your choices are to cut, like your basic cut, to draw, where you would insert a pen or use the foil tip or even use the scoring pen. And then your last one is to print then cut. When you change your machine, one little point there, the foil pen does even tell you how to identify which tip you'll be using on the foil tip. When you change your machine to the maker machine, you have more choices because you have more tools that you can use in the maker machine. So up here in the cut version, you could add the blade to do a wavy cut or a perforation cut, and then you have more draw tools of score, deboss, and engrave. So if you are on an Explore machine and you're wondering why you can't engrave, that's because that's an operation that you can do on the maker machine. And you need the engrave tool to do it with. Now, also up in the operation panel, you'll notice that grayed out box there. That's where you go to change the color of your layer. So when you change the color of your layer, I changed my square to a red square. When you change that color, you'll also notice in your layers panel that the color has changed here. So if I were to change my triangle to a pink, that would show up here. And this is really good if you're trying to figure out how to resize things or how you want shapes in relation to each other. I will change my color and just to kind of get an idea for it. It doesn't do anything with the color unless you're doing a print then cut, then the color would print out. But if you're just using vinyl, it doesn't matter if you change the color to red and then use yellow vinyl to actually cut it out with. Now, down at the bottom of your layers panel is this last little section here. And these are called action icons. If you're on a tablet device, this will be in the bottom of your tablet device. Look for the icon called action. And when you click on that icon, these choices will pop up. So let's talk about a couple of these choices as we go across. Down in your action icons panel here, you have slice and weld, attach, flatten, and contour. In this class today, we're going to really focus on the slice, the weld, and the attach. These are the icons that when you click on them, they actually do something to the layers. So we'll talk more about those. Slice. So what is slice? This is where I always say, get out your notebook so you can take notes. Slice allows you to cut one shape from another shape, or it deletes part of an image. So when you have two layers, now slice will only work with two layers. So you do want to make sure if you're doing slice that you have two layers selected. And when you have those two layers selected and you select slice, what it does is it cuts apart the two shapes where the cut line overlaps into each other. So in this green circle, the cut line here that overlaps into the square, there's a cut line right there. And there's also the cut line of the square's edge, which you can't see here, but it's back there. So when you have two layers selected and you choose slice, it cuts each shape where they overlapped and the cut lines were. So now you can see from the circle, you've cut a quarter of that circle out using this square here. So now you literally have a slice of pie or a slice of pizza. That is your slice right there. Now, slice will also work if your shapes are completely overlapping. And I think of this like a cookie cutter. So if your yellow represents your dough, you've rolled it out, you've got this nice base layer, and then you're going to take another shape and layer it on top of the dough and slice that. And what that does is it literally cuts out that shape from the background, from your background shape. So from my square, I had the green star overlapping completely onto the yellow square. And then I sliced that out and it completely cut that out and fixed that. So that's slice. And Joy, I'm seeing a question in the, is there something I need to do to fix that?
I think that's how you're watching. So Vicki, that's how you're watching Zoom on your whatever screen you're using, whatever device you're using. You can go up to view options at the very top of Zoom and click if you'd like it to be at 100%. And that will give you the full version of what Kesley is sharing, if that helps.
Thank you. I'm sure that will help a lot of people. So the next action icon that you'll see on your actions panel is weld. So where slice pulls things apart, weld brings things together. So here you have this big, huge heart here, and it's overlapping some of these smaller hearts. So what you can do when you weld these three shapes together, you actually eliminate or remove those cut lines from the shapes and you create a single layer. So my three little hearts here, I have 3 layers in my layers panel. And when they're overlapping like this, and I weld them together, it merges, it like flattens pancakes, all of these layers together into a single layer. So this is how, after you've welded those 3 hearts, this is what it will look like. Those 3 different shapes have now become one shape. So weld can work on 2 or more layers, where slice only works on 1 layer, weld works on 2 or more. And when those layers are together, they're together. So if you've saved a design you've done and you've welded your layers together, you can't unweld them. You can ungroup and you can detach and you can, back arrow your slice. But once something's welded, it's permanent. It's going to stay there. Okay, now the third icon is attach. So remember group. When we had 2 or more layers together, we could group those layers and you can move them around the canvas together. But that's it. It just stays on the canvas. What attach does is it holds the position of the layers so that when you send those layers to your device to cut, they cut in exactly the position you had them on your canvas. So in this example here, I have 3 different layers. I have a coffee mug, I have a word junkie, and a word pumpkin. And you'll notice too, there are 3 different colors. Now, when I arrange them and get them lined up exactly how I'd like them to be, this is my cut. Maybe I want to put this on a shirt and cut it out with iron-on vinyl, or cut it out of cardstock. Who knows what you want to cut it out. But this is my position of how I want it to be cut. So what I've done is I've positioned my 3 different layers together and I've changed it so they will all cut on the same piece of vinyl. Now, before I attach it, if I send it to my machine, the prepare screen gives me an appearance like this. And what happens is, since I didn't attach those layers together, Cricut wants to help us maximize the use of our material. So when that shape goes to your machine, the prepare screen, what it does is it says, okay, let's lay the layers across the top and then down the side first, and then we'll fill in from there. So what happened is it moved my positioning out of place. And when I attach those, so you have to select those layers, all 3 layers, and click on the attach icon. That holds those 3 layers together. I can move them around my canvas together. I can resize them together. But it holds it together, and that information is sent to my machine all together so that now it goes onto my prepare screen and holds its positioning. So the attach is definitely something that you'll want to work with and play with. I, to this day, and I don't know how many years I've been using Cricut, I still sometimes will forget that. And I'll see it on my prepare screen and say, oh, let me back up and attach those together so they cut out how I want them to be cut out. Now, let's just do a quick review on the 3 different ways to attach or hold your layers together. Group is the first one. Group works with multiple layers that are images, text, or shapes, and it allows you to move those layers together around your canvas. Attach is the tool that holds everything together, and when you send it to your machine, your prepare screen in your machine, it freezes the position of your layers, how you have it on your canvas, so it will go to your cut mat in the exact same position. And the last one was Weld. And the Weld tool unites those 2 layers together, and they don't come undone. So once you've welded, in comparison to group and attach, like that's it, they're going to stick together. Whereas group and attach, you can ungroup and you can detach. So you can always go back and move them around at a later time if you want to. Now, there are 2 more little icons down on the bottom in your action panel. The first one is the contour. So contour hides or unhides individual lines and shapes. So when I think about like this little cactus here on the side, each of these pieces inside the black lines are shapes created by cut lines. So to get these crescent kind of shapes here, to get the crescent shapes here, there are a series of cut lines that will cut out that shape in your design. But let's say you wanted to make the base of this cactus to be a solid black, and you wanted to erase or remove these crescent lines. Then you would need to use your contour tool, and think of it like an eraser. So when you go into the contour tool, you have all these little shapes that are put together eventually to make the design. And you can either click on them in the drop-down menu here. So my mouse is like not sure. There we go. Click them in the drop-down menu here, or you can actually click them on the shape. And when you click it, it hides it. So just like the eyeball on the layers panel hides your layers, this hides that shape within the larger shape. It's still there. You can go back and access it later, but when you send your information to your cut machine, it won't be there. So as you hide each of these crescent shapes, you notice that you have now a solid base right on the bottom. Now, again, that eraser. So contour works on a single layer. If you can't choose 2 layers and contour. So if you were to choose 2 layers, you wouldn't be able to contour. But sometimes images you find in Cricut Access have already been welded and made into a single layer. So like this Darling You're Beautiful, while it's 2 separate fonts, and maybe at one time it was 2 separate layers, it's now all one whole layer. But for this example, I only wanted the word darling. I didn't want the You're Beautiful. So what you can do is contour the You're Beautiful out. So you just click on the contour and you click these different, each letter is a different cut line. So you have to click on each letter, and then you also have to click on the inside of the letters. And when you start working with contour a little bit more, you may forget to, like, if you X out the O, you may forget to X out the little inside part of the O letter, and you just go back into contour and X it out. So if I'm contouring something that has a lot of little pieces, I'll get a couple done and then look at it and then go back and do a couple more. So once you've done contouring out all the cut lines of the You're Beautiful, you're left with the single word here of darling, and you've erased the You're Beautiful. So the last little icon here is called Flatten. What Flatten does is it combines cut layers into a single layer for the sole purpose of printing on a printer. So when you flatten all of your images together, you can send it to a printer to print out that design. So this image here, this body positive babe, has 5 different layers, and each layer is its own color. But I don't want to cut this. I want to send this to my printer and print it out. And so to do that, I have to take these 5 layers that are cut layers and convert them into a flattened layer. So you select this shape with all the layers, and then you select flatten. And what happens is it changes it to a single layer with a new operation called print then cut. And now when I go to make these 4 shapes, when I go to make it and I go to my prepare screen, it's changed it into a print then cut output. So this will then be sent to my printer. And when I bring it, after it's printed out, I bring it back to my machine and I put it on my cutting mat, and you'll notice this black box has been added around my images. So the black box is what your cutter uses to identify, it's like a registration mark. So it uses that to identify where the shapes are going to be located on your paper, and then using these black lines, it plots where to cut around each shape. So that's print then cut. Now, one last little bit that works into our layers panel is also our text. In your design space panel here in the text space, when you click on text to add text to your canvas, the text box pops up. And as you type your text will show up. And then you also have the edit bar here with text. Now, some text you use will be just plain like a sans serif or something like that. And each letter will stand on its own. Other types of letters that you're going to use may be more of a script design where you want it to cut out as one whole word and not 5 different letters. Also something to note when you're working with fonts, the fonts, each letter originally comes in as its own layer, although you don't see it over here in a drop down of all the different layers. Each letter comes in as its own layer. And the reason for that is it allows you to change the space between your letters and change the space between your lines. So if you've typed in multiple lines of content, you can change that space between the lines. So just as we move forward, you'll understand where that plays a part. It plays a part when we weld. So I'll tell you, or if you're doing contour or something like that, it does make a difference. So I will come back to that. So hang tight. Now, as you go, when you're adding a font to your canvas, you can select the font you want to use by using the font box here. And then you have what style of font that's going to be is identified there. When you look at the different styles of font, this is where it will tell you if you're doing a cut line or a writing line. Like this font, Three Birds Life's a Party, had 5 different styles to choose from. You had the regular file of font that would be a basic cut, and it actually has 2 different versions in the same font. So it does the regular letter and then the outline of that letter. And then it did a bold, an italic, a bold italic, and a writing. And in my layers panel, it will tell you what each layer is going to do. So they're all cut layers, except for that writing font, which is a drawing, which actually is used as a draw font, and you would use a pen to draw that font out. Now, when you do a search for fonts, you can search for fonts that are on your computer system. So these are fonts that came with, like if you're using a computer with a Windows base, they're the fonts that come in with your window base. And then you have Cricut fonts, which are fonts that are included in Cricut Access. You also on a desktop or laptop have this kern font feature here. Kerning is the space between your letters. So a kern font has no space between the letters, and so example, if you're using a script font, if it's kerned, those letters are designed to overlap on top of each other like this. So this font here was a Cloud9, was a kern font where the letters are coming in and they're overlapping on top of each other. Now I want that to be one word. So I want the AIS all to be together as one word. So what I do is you highlight those letters and you click on Weld, and the Weld will remove the cut lines here. So you do need to weld kern fonts. Great question, Loretta. You do need to weld kern fonts because what kerning does for this purposes is it just does the spacing of the fonts. So just like I was talking about, each letter is its own layer, although we don't see it in our layers panel. Each letter here is its own layer. You do need to weld them together. Otherwise, it would cut these lines here in your design. It would cut out those actual lines. Okay, now if you guys are ready to get started on our project, we are going to do a great little notebook. And you don't have to put on a notebook if you have a glass or something like that. We're going to do something like this, an Oh Hello Pumpkin. So I'll be using, I have the Artist Loft notebook here. I love these notebooks. I cannot have enough of these. So I'll use that. And if you're using a cup or something like that, what I recommend is to hold your cup like this so that you have the space between your thumb and your finger, that's the space you would measure for where how wide you want your design to be. So on my book here, I'm going to measure between the spine, about probably a quarter of an inch over on the spine. Sorry, that's a lot of glare on there. Quarter inch over on the spine to where the little piece of elastic is there. And I'll get that measurement. So we'll just pop that in here. So the width there for me is about 4 3/4 of an inch. And you can see I centered this design from this edge to the edge of the where the elastic is. So I'll probably end up making my design about 4 inches. And if I were doing my cup, like this cup, for example, I would measure it across and it is, oh, that's 4 inches too. So if you don't have a blank to work with today, you can still make the design and then you can transfer it down the line when you're ready. Okay, so let's go ahead and I'll start. Before I jump into Design Space Live, it looks like you guys are answering all the questions, but I don't see anything lingering. Okay, so we're good. So we'll go ahead and share my Cricut and we'll go right in. Now, I do like to, oops, sorry guys, there we go. Okay, I do like to show you the finished project and I like to have that on my canvas as we're working because sometimes when we're doing little steps of it, you may miss a step or not really understand how that's going to get us to the last stage. So this is my home screen for Design Space, and I'm going to scroll down to the community projects. So these are a lot of exciting projects going on here, but what we're looking for is the community recently added from the community. So when you look in this section, these are projects that are done by users like you and me, where we've created something and we want to share it. So this is always a great place to kind of browse through. In the search for community members right here in this box, if you want to just kind of grab the project and bring it out on your canvas, go ahead and type in my name. It's Kesley Anderson, and my profile picture will pop up for you. So, and then you can just grab the design with me that we can work together on. So you'll see this, oh, hello, pumpkin. Now, when you click on my name, you may not see as much as you're seeing on my screen here. And that's because not all of my projects are projects that I've shared with the community. So if you don't see, if there's something here I'm showing you on my screen, but you don't see on your screen, it's just because I haven't shared it with the community. So go ahead and click on this, oh, hello, pumpkin. That's what we're going to make today. So go ahead and click on that and then click on the make it icon down here in the bottom right. And the reason we're just going to, I'm sorry, not make it, we want to customize it. So go ahead and click on the customize it button. If you were to say make it, it would just send it right to your machine and you wouldn't have to do anything with it. You could just put your vinyl on your machine, on your mat, and go ahead and cut away. But this is what we're going to be, this will be our end game here. The oh, hello, pumpkin, just in time for the Halloween holidays or fall season. Actually, it's more fall than Halloween. Okay, so it actually is made up of a few things. One, we created the rectangle frame using slice. We've welded 2 different images. The oh, hello is an image and the pumpkin here is an image. So we've welded those together and then we've added another font here of pumpkin. So we're going to be doing a lot of different steps to get started here. So why don't we go ahead and start with the first step, which is to grab some images. So I invite you to do this step with me if you're crafting along with me now. Sometimes I'll do something and then I'll say, okay, just watch me do it, and then we'll do it together. This is one we're going to do together. Head over to the images icon on the left side on the design panel. If you're on a tablet device, that images icon is going to be in the bottom left corner. So you can see all of these fun images pop up here. And what we're going to do is we're going to go to the category of free this week. So you want to go to category and free this week. Now you can also do that, get to the free this week by using the filters on the left side and go to brand and type in, I think there's a free this week in the brand. Maybe I'm wrong. Or ownership, sorry. If you go to ownership and you click on free, you can also find the free content. And sorry, Jessica's saying she didn't see it when she typed in. Make sure you type in my name. It's Kesley, Kesley, not the other way. Kesley Anderson ON, and it should pop up. And if it doesn't pop up, do not worry, because we are going to be making this together today, and you'll have it in your safe projects by the end of class. So don't get caught up on that. Make sure you're with me on finding these images. So we're going to search in free this week. Now in the free this week, we're going to look for a pumpkin. So go ahead and type in the search box pumpkin, and we'll see what options come up. So you have quite a few options of pumpkins. I'll be working with this image right here, but you can choose any pumpkin image you want to work with. So we'll go ahead and click on that pumpkin image. That green banding box lets me know I've selected it and it's in my queue. Then I'm going to search for that second image of the oh hello. So let's go oh hello in the search box, keywords oh hello. And here we go. Now I have the oh hello right here, and I'm going to click on that image and add that to my queue. And now I'm going to click on that and take it to my canvas. You can just edit so Zoe's asking, I'm confused why we are searching for the image if we have Kesley's design to work from. Can't we just edit hers? No, you may not, because I have already done all the work for you, and I have welded the images together. So this is sort of, I haven't welded everything together, but my hello and everything is welded to my pumpkin. And I want to teach you how to do this from scratch, because maybe another time you want to do a different design. So doing the steps with me will help you remember how to create your own designs next. So we've brought these two images onto our canvas. So we have the pumpkin here and we have the oh hello here. So now what we need to do is create our frame. So what we're going to do first is let's hide the images that we brought in, the oh hello and the basic pumpkin. So let's hide both of those images, and we're going to create the frame that goes around our design. Now I'm going to do this once, so just watch me do it, and then we'll do it together, and it really will make a difference. So just take your hands off your keyboards and watch me do it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to my images. My shapes, and I'm going to click on the square to bring the square onto my canvas. Now, if you're using a mouse and you click on that mouse 2 times, like double click, you get 2 shapes on your canvas. And you'll notice that there is one shape above the other. And as I click, I want you to look in my layers panel. As I click between the 2 different layers, you can see that gray square, the gray line kind of bouncing between, and that's how you know which layer you've selected. Now we want to select our top layer here, and we're going to make this into a shape that is 5 inches wide by 3 inches tall, and we'll resize this at the end. So don't worry if your ultimate finished size is going to be different. We will resize it at the very end. I do not need 53 inches. So what we need to do is take that first square and we're going to turn it into a rectangle. So you want to unlock your proportions and change your width to 5 inches and my height to 3 inches. Okay. Now I didn't enter, so that's why that didn't work. Okay, then my next rectangle, I want to change this to 4.75 inches. And my height, I want to create my rectangle to be, sorry there, 4.75 and 2.75. Okay, so now just for example purposes, I'm going to change the color so you guys can see my top one and my bottom one. Now, when I bring my bottom one over onto my top one, wait a minute, I can't see it. Why can't I see it? Because my yellow is not my top layer. So it gets hidden behind the layer above it. So to fix that, so I get my yellow layer on top, I need to change the order in my layers panel. So I'm going to take that orange square and I'm going to bring it down. And you guys are still just watching, not ready for you to do it yet. We're going to get there. That yellow now is on top of my orange. Now what I want to do, I could maneuver this and eyeball it and try and get it right in the center, but there's an easier way. I'm going to grab both layers and I'm going to align and I'm going to do a center align. Now you can see where I'm starting to make my frame. Then the last thing while I have those two layers selected is to select slice. And then I will pull those apart and you can see now I've got my frame is right here. Now, if you're ready to make with me, we'll go ahead and get started with that. So I'm going to delete this. And now this time you guys do it with me. So go ahead and go to your shapes panel here and double click or bring on two square shapes onto your canvas. So now we have these two shapes. And again, for demonstration purposes, I'm going to change my colors, but you do not need to do this. If you want to do it, you can, but for demonstration, I'm just going to change my colors. Okay, so now I have my two colors and my two squares on my canvas, and we need to make those into rectangles by unlocking the proportions. And our base rectangle, you want it to be 5 inches wide by 3 inches tall. And then your top rectangle, you want that to be 4.75 inches wide by 2.7 inches. Oops. Got to unlock that proportion so we don't keep it as a rectangle to 2.75. So we get the rectangle. There we go. Okay, so now you should have two squares on your canvas, two rectangles on your canvas that one will nest inside the other. So if you're with me here, you want to go ahead and select both layers and say align the center, and that will match those up so you have an even border all the way around. And while those two lines are selected in your design panel, we want to slice. And that now has created 3 different layers. I have 2 rectangles, which I don't need, and I have my frame, which I do need. So I'm going to take these 2, get them off my canvas and delete those. So I'm just left with my frame. Now, if you're with me, awesome. You've done a great job. Go ahead and work on changing the colors, practice with that a little bit. If you're not with me, I'm going to run through those steps one more time. We're going to go to the shapes. We're going to click on square and bring in 2 squares. Remember, if you're, you can always go to your layers panel and duplicate over there to bring in the squares. For the bottom square, we are going to change that, unlock the proportion, 5 inches wide by 3 inches tall. I always forget to hit enter. And then our top rectangle, again, unlock your proportion, go 4.75 by 2.75, hit return. Then we're going to take both of those rectangles, align the center. And now that they're both highlighted, we're going to click slice. and slice those out. So now you have your 2 squares and your frame. Delete your 2 rectangles. Sorry, I keep saying that. Delete those 2 rectangles so you're left with just the frame. And that's it. That is how you slice things together. And we took 2 shapes. That was like a cookie cutter slice there. Now I'm going to enlarge my canvas. So as I bring in my images, you guys can see that a little bit better. So now we're ready to bring in the oh, hello. So go ahead and unhide that layer. Ooh, that's a big one. Go ahead and unhide that layer. And we're going to change our width of the oh, hello to be 5 inches because that's as big as our rectangle is. Now you see on my screen, my oh, hello is all the way over. It's almost off the canvas. I can't see it. So when you bring an image onto your canvas and you can't see it, let me show you a little trick to bring it back or to get you back to where that image is. Click on that image in your layers panel and it takes you right to where that image is. And now you can bring this over here to where your frame is. And you can also use the slider bar. Oops, I slid too far. You can bring that slider bar down here. Now your oh, hello will fit right into your frame. I do want to, for this class, let's go ahead and get rid of that O with the comma. You can hide that on your layers panel. So you just have the word hello and bring that right down onto your frame. How do you like that? Kind of cute. Okay, so I'm going to group those together. I like how they are. I kind of like how that hello is bumping up on that frame. You do want some part, if you kept the O, great. You do want some part of the frame, the word oh, hello touching your frame because we're going to weld that in a minute. So let's just keep that there for right now. And then let's bring in our pumpkin. So let's go to our layers panel and bring in our pumpkin. And here's the pumpkin here, making its debut. Okay, here we go. Now, so our pumpkin, our frame is way smaller than the pumpkin. So we just need to resize the pumpkin. And I'm going to use this quick edit tool here on my pumpkin. And I'm just going to bring that down. Now, I do have my proportion locked. If you wanted to go for like a tall pumpkin, you could unlock your proportion and stretch your pumpkin longer if you so desired. So just keep that in mind. So we're going to bring this pumpkin onto our frame. And again, you want to have that touching some portion of the frame. So we'll have those touching like that. My pumpkin's touching the frame on the side and my hello here. Now, what I'd like to do, and you can see, you can't really see it here because I have, you can't see my colors. Let me go to my pumpkin and I'm just going to change this to a lighter color. And I'll change my hello to a lighter color again. So you can see right here where they overlap, those 2 colors would, those lines would cut out. So the H would cut into your pumpkin and we don't want that to happen. So we're going to weld those together. So if you're with me, let's go ahead and do the welding. So you want to grab your hello and your pumpkin layer. And we want to weld those together. And you'll see that now has cut out. So my pumpkin is now part of the word hello. And then you can just double check your positioning on that in your frame, if that's how you like it or not. You can kind of move that around a bit if you want to again. Then the last thing you go is we're going to attach all of that together because that will all be one color. Like our original one here is all one color. So we want that to be part of our frame. So we're going to grab all 3 layers and we're going to weld those all together like that. Now you can see I've got a little space here on my pumpkin and I wish I had moved my pumpkin over a little bit. I can still do an undo or a Control Z and come back and just move my pumpkin. But once I've saved my project, like I was saying with my project up here, I can't unweld it. Okay, so just keep that in mind. So I'm going to grab all my layers again. You'll get to watch me do this. I can grab all 3 layers that way and I'll weld them all together. And now I have my frame is all set. And I can change it. I'll probably cut this out of an orange. And there we go. Now the last part we want to do is add in the word pumpkin, or you can add in a different word if you want. So let's go ahead and go to our design panel and add text. So if you guys will do this with me, if you're on a tablet device, I will show you a way to use kerning. You kind of have to do it manually, but I'll show you how to do that. And we're running up against time here. So go ahead and type in the word pumpkin. And let's change it to a font. Try a font, type in a font, Radiotopia. Now you'll notice on this font, it has the kerning. So that means when you bring it onto your canvas on your desktop or laptop, it will overlap and do the kerning for you. So give it a second. So when you look at this font, you can see that it's already it's pushed together like that. But you can change the letter spacing if you wanted to, and see how I can change that letter spacing and push those letters apart. But I don't want to do that. I want to keep these all together as one letter, and I want to weld this letter together. So now I have this, and then we'll just resize it and fit it onto here. If you want to, the original used a Cricut Sans to do the word pumpkin. So if you wanted to, you could keep that Cricut Sans, or if you wanted to do this font is Radiotopia, if you wanted to kind of keep with the cursive style. I'm just going to demonstrate one last thing. I'm going to keep, I like the Cricut Sans personally, but I just want to show you all, if you use a font that is not kerned, like a quirky font here. If you use quirky, like this font here, and you type something in, like pumpkin, see how that comes in and the letters are spaced apart. So if you're on a tablet device, this is how all of your script fonts will be. So you just need to change your spacing in the edit bar to like a -0.5, and it pushes those letters together like that. Okay, so I'm just going to change mine back to Cricut Sans for my font. Kind of like that one. It's like a really nice basic font. This is a really good go-to font. It doesn't take up too much room, and it looks kind of cute in there. And then we can just change that color yellow. Okie doke. So now, guys, we've built it. You have all built it together. Woohoo! Give yourselves a pat on the back. You did it. Now, if you happen to have brought in my design, you want to make sure you don't send it to the cutter. So go ahead and hide that so it doesn't go to the cutter, and you just have the new design you made. Now, remember, one more step. We want this to, it's all welded together. If it wasn't welded together and everything touching, and you wanted it to print in, or you wanted it to cut in this position, you'd want to attach it. But we don't need to attach it since we did the weld. Now, when I go to the make screen, it will bring in I'm going to be using a matte today. It will bring in the orange layer and the yellow layer. If you want to, you can take your yellow layer and bring it over onto your orange layer. So you only send your matte in one time. So we're going to move that object to the orange layer there, and we'll just move that over to that side of the canvas right there. Okay, so all you have to do to move layers around, and the reason I do this is just I'm using the same material. I'm going to use a glossy permanent vinyl for the orange and for the yellow, and I've got my matte, so I can just put one color on one side and the other color on the other side, and send my cut my matte through only one time. Now from here, my maker's all connected. So let's give it a second. It's thinking. Shouldn't even, it's not. Let me turn it off and turn it back on, see if it pops up. There we go. Oh, did I have it selected for a oh, I did. You know what? I'm sorry, Loretta. I'm not using my Maker 3. I'm using the Explore 3. I forgot I had changed that on my canvas. Right over here. So it couldn't find that. Let me just change that back to an Explore 3. Sorry. Okay, so let's cut that out on the mat. And I'll bring this over. Now, sometimes what I will do when I'm cutting out like these little letters, I will actually draw a box around them, and it makes it easier when I weed to have it like that. But I'm just going to tuck those over there for today. Okay, so let me go ahead and say continue. It's going to do it. And I'll just be using premium vinyl permanent glossy. It's got my fine point blade loaded, and I'm ready to share my screen. Now, let me go ahead and click on tubes. There we go. It's going to give me my overhead. Here we are. All right, so I've got my notebook, and I actually have my pieces are pre-cut, but I'm just using a premium glossy yellow and orange today. And I'll take my mat. Now remember, I moved both of my pieces onto my mat, so it makes it easier to cut. And I can just pop that right on there. And then my pumpkin will go right here. Now, if you were following along in your cutting yours today, don't forget to resize it if you needed to. So mine, it's going to be probably a little bit bigger because I made it 5 inches wide by 3 inches. So don't forget to remeasure your cut piece. Okay, now I'll just go ahead and feed that in, and it will give that a quick cut. And I'm also going to be using my bright pad to show you how to layer. When you're layering multiple colors of vinyl, it does sometimes make it easier if you can layer them up against a window or something that you can see through. And this class is being recorded, just remember that. I think I'm going to be a few minutes over our time today. If you have to cut out, what we're going to be doing is just assembling this together, but it is being recorded, so you can always watch it at a little bit later if you needed to. So let's see, I've got my little tool, and I'll use my wedge to put it all together. What is the brand of the book? Angelina, I'm using the, I picked these books up at Michael's, and it's the Artist Loft, and they have a whole bunch of different types. This one is a dotted, I think they're all, the ones I have here are dotted, but they have dotted journals, they have line journals. You can get them in all different colors. I can show you. This is another design. We did our summer design. Life is better on the beach, but you have lots of different colors to choose from at your local Michael's store. Okay, so now I always turn my canvas upside down, my mat upside down, and remove my vinyl from my mat that way. And I'll show you guys something funny. When I have to tuck my mat out of the way after I'm done cutting, I realized recently it fits perfectly underneath your machine. So you can tuck it out of the way just like that and not have to worry about having it in the wrong spot or getting stuff on it. So I like to keep my mat clean. Okay, so let's just go ahead and do a quick weed here. We're going to pop the back side off.
I
tend to keep my lint roller handy so that I can push my lint right onto there. I mean, my cut pieces, my weeded pieces go right onto there. And for timing, I'm not going to weed out my letters. I can always do that later for, and I wouldn't recommend it, but I know I just don't want to go too far over. You would weed out your letters there. And then for the hello, or the pumpkin part of it, there's a little space here. I will tell you the paper trimmer is one of the tools I use a lot. It's so easy to have handy and move things around when you're cutting. So I can save my little scraps for later. I just tuck them aside. And then if I'm working on a project and I just need a little piece of something, I've got a nice clean cut piece to use. But I do like the fact that the Cricut vinyl all has the grids on the back. So if you were using scissors, you can still get a pretty good straight line. My eyesight just isn't as good as it used to be. Okay, so what I like to do here and why I use my bright pad when I'm working with layering my fonts is I'll put my design down and get it set up so that everything kind of pieces together the way that I'd like it to be. So first I'm going to put the orange on my vinyl and then I'll add the yellow. So I just kind of get that lined up and I use the grid lines to make sure it's lined up properly. And then I would just put a little piece of tape and hold this on the bright pad here like this. I don't know if you guys heard my tape roll go rolling, but it did. All right, so we'll just go like that with our vinyl, and that's going to hold that in place. So when I put my transfer tape down, you'll be able to see how I line that back up. So I use my transfer tape and I'll take the straight line. My transfer tape has a grid on it, the Cricut transfer tape. So when I put it down on my piece here, I line that straight grid piece onto my backing here, and that keeps my design straight. So I'm picking it up straight. Okay, and then we just can do the hinge. You just open up that vinyl, your transfer tape, and we're going to pull the backing off of our design here. And I like to think of it as like a rock and roll. So I sort of go from side to side and can pull it off in a nice smooth line. Now my pumpkin is in the right spot and I just will bring my transfer tape back over that. So I have it all lined up the way I wanted it to be. And then I meant to put that back down underneath my pumpkin so it didn't stick like that. But we're still very lined up. And then you just pull this back. Like that. You can see I did mess up my vinyl here just a hair. I stretched it. So I would just fix that before putting it onto my book. Or even once I got it on my book, I can realign that. So that okay, so then you've got your book, and I'll take my little piece off here. Now, usually you can use a ruler. I like to just eyeball it, and I use the grid lines on my transfer tape to give me that eyeball like that, so I can keep it straight there. And I did kind of stretch my vinyl when I pulled it off the the backing there, if you can see that, but it's still super cute. And if you have pieces as you're pulling off your transfer tape, you can just push it back down like this. Now, normally I would have weeded out those sections, but I ran a little bit over our time and I didn't want to mess you up. But if you did something like this, I could always go back and pull those pieces out like that. So I'll be able to fix that up. But I want you guys to see the finished project that we made in the class. All right. So this is called a bright pad, the Cricut bright pad, and it has different, you can reduce the brightness. I probably should have reduced the brightness, but you can reduce the brightness and increase the brightness. I love it. And it's also why it's rechargeable. So once you've charged it up, I can walk around the house with it and keep it in different places and things like that. But it's great for layering, especially if you're working late at night and you don't have a bright window to go line up against. All right, so I will stop my video. Thank you guys for hanging in there with me. For everybody who could, I hope everyone has enjoyed the class and you guys are ready to, oops, that's what I get. I hope everyone has really enjoyed the class. I'd love to see what you make. Feel free to tag me on Instagram, kesley.365, and share with me what you've made. Share with Michael's at, I'm drawing blank. Cricut with, Joy, help me out.
Cricut with Michaels.
Cricut with Michaels. So we'd love to see what you guys create. Please share with us and join us for another class in the future.
Thank you.
Thanks so much, everybody. Have a great day.